Welcome to the Empower Hour. I'm Heike Fallon, your host, and today we're talking about how writing changes how you feel, how you think, and how you act, how it really has an impact on your brain and influences your healing processes and enhances your personal development. It really is a strong component of feeling your best self, of well-being, of happiness. And all you need is a pen, a paper, and an intentional strategy. And today, my guest is Jennie Linthorst. She is a therapeutic writing coach and the founder of LifeSPEAKS. And she helps her clients dig deeper and explore their emotions and their feeling, putting those into words and all the benefits and transitions that happened in their lives. She shares that with me today. So I'm super excited to have her here with me on this Empower Hour. Right, welcome, Jennie. I'm so excited to have you here today. I've actually wanted you as a guest for a long time. So, because I knew when I started the show, you're somebody who gives so much to people with your expertise as a therapeutic writing coach and the things you've done. And I know you for a while, and I'm excited to hear and you share more about what you're doing, because when you write, life speaks. Got that from your website, because it's so true, right? So
yes. When you write, life speaks, a story worth telling. Yes. And we all have that story inside us, and writing helps us kind of peel it apart and help us understand ourselves. Yes.
So a therapeutic writing coach, what does that really mean? I mean, people journal, maybe they have heard about journaling, right? But this is a lot more.
This is a lot more. And and people are always amazed that there is an actual field. I like to describe it as it being under the umbrella of the art therapies, the expressive art therapies. So people are often, they know about, let's say, music therapy or drama therapy or visual art therapy. This is under what we call bibliotherapy, which means that we're using literature to inspire our own journal writing, but for therapeutic value, for self-discovery. So I'm trained under the field of poetry therapy, and because I am a poet myself, but I generally in my practice use accessible poetry to put it in front of someone and have them respond. But it's the expressive writing piece that's so important, and done in a way that it's not about writing a publishable poem. We're not looking to edit it or craft it. We may do that down the line, but the therapeutic value is to really let the language flow without judgment, and to really be heard and to hear ourselves what patterns come forward. And so I'm trained to pull that out of you, and also help you look at your writing for therapeutic elements.
So when you say expressive writing, how does that look like?
Okay, so like a typical session with me would be putting an accessible piece. I'm not gonna, people get nervous about the term poetry and their history of having studied poetry, right?
We all
and
have
you
like bad history, right, from school.
Right.
Oh my God, we had to do this poetry thing.
And people like have these flashbacks to being forced to memorize a particular poem that they didn't understand, being forced to only see the meaning that the teacher wanted you to see, and to analyze it for literature and poetic techniques, right? Well, that's great for academics, but what if a poem actually speaks to you, and you might be able to find yourself in a line of a poem, whether that is the literal meaning of what the poet wanted you to see or not. And so I would put something in front of you and ask you, where does this land in your life right now? Is there a line in here that speaks to you? And what amazes me is that, unlike regular talk therapy, people will often start to cry immediately when they start to talk about a particular line. It goes that deep into helping them align language and imagery and somehow feeling less alone. And it's that catalyst for, oh my gosh, this brings me back to memories of my childhood and the way I used to feel in my father's presence. And, you know, suddenly we are landing in something that they're really working on inside. And no matter what poem I put in front of someone, it's amazing. Whatever they are chewing on or really struggling with, they find a way in through that. And so the expressive writing piece is for me to say, oh, Heike, and I'm taking notes, you know, and I'm listening deeply. You know, you just brought up sitting in the study with your father when you were young. Like, can you speak more about that? And I get them verbalizing. They don't realize that they're already writing. And then I feed it back and give them a line or have them just write from a line in the poem. And they're just journaling. It's just expressive. It's just putting it on the page without it needing to look good. And then it's the reading aloud of it from the client. That is the next therapeutic step, because when you hear your own words out loud, that is when a lot of times people spark emotion. And, you know, all of that is gold for me as a facilitator. Oh, I noticed that you got teary, you know, when you spoke that particular line. What does that mean to you, that particular line? And it's a way in to have them go further. That's a piece, or that's a line that needs more writing. And writing is love. That's a piece that needs more love from you. It needs more examination. It needs you to find the right words of what it is you're feeling.
Wow. Yes, it is all intentional, right? It's like you said, you know as a coach exactly how to dig deep on what areas, and that helps them to really go deeper there. But you said a huge and vital component, and me as a brain-based coach, you know, pick up on that, obviously. The brain believes itself the most. So when we're saying things out loud, that's how it even changes and manifests much more really authentic and an alignment.
Yes.
Which helps us shift a lot. And you already said one thing that would have been my question. Do people get emotional usually when it goes deep, right?
Yeah.
But what transitions have you noticed people going through as they, you know, there's the emotional part coming, which can be scary too, I'm imagining. But what is that transition that comes out of it usually?
So I think the biggest healing process that I notice is them clients becoming much more self-aware of the patterns of how they are taking in moments in their life. And, you know, we all create stories of what moments mean. And we start to believe often more negative stories that could be examined. And so imagine all the techniques that I can use as a facilitator of, you know, having someone, let's say, write one of the writing exercises I do is odes and anti-odes. And people know odes as being very poetic and academic. But imagine if you were struggling with a diagnosis of depression or something, and you got an opportunity to write an anti-ode, you know, oh, depression, writing to it, personifying it, making it something that is real and has entered your life, and let you rant how it came into your life, how it's hurting you, really putting that into language. But then what if I asked you to then turn around and write an ode to it, which is a praising of it? What are some of the blessings that it's given you? What is the light? What are some of the things you're learning about yourself? Self-care techniques, things like that, but doing it in a way that's just through journaling. So I guess one of the biggest shifts I see is that people start to see, oh gosh, I've been carrying that a long time and believing this about it and created this story about it. And they may need to write that in a million different ways. But then there's usually some sort of shift of awareness of the gifts of learning and change, and how they can move through transitions, change, painful experiences with a different lens, because they've explored it. And writing can take you to so many different pathways.
So it's really a shift in belief and mindset that is happening, which is a really fundamental, because that's what we can build on as soon as we shift our mindset. And it oftentimes, as you said, from a negative to more positive mindset, growth mindset, that can we're actually moving forward. Because I, as a coach, right, compared to a therapist, I pick you up where you're at today and we're moving you forward, right? You're digging a little deeper in the past and really working a little more therapeutic on that. But at the end of the day, to move forward, we need to have the mindset that works for us. It serves us. Because if we don't, we're going to keep spinning in it. Now, let me ask you this. You also said they write it. Is there also a rewriting process in the whole journey?
I mean, there can be. I mean, there's a million different ways to offer writing exercises. I mean, just responding to a poem, someone like, let's say my life story course called Your Story Starts Here. That's probably my most popular private course. And it's a 10-session course where we really go through the life story. We start in childhood. We do a life map of, like, you know, all the things that have happened in your life. And we look at all the millions of writings and poems that can be written about that. But I really take them through that journey. And I'm always looking for patterns and things. Oftentimes what will happen is people will take that course, they'll do the 30+ writings, and we're mining it for information and what's useful for them to take, and what is the hope, what's the insight that you're taking with you. But often they will then want to edit and look at them more deeply. And then I can take off the poetry therapy hat and put on more of the craft hat. And it's through that process and a little bit of rewriting that we go even deeper, right?
Yeah.
What might be an insight here that we could add to this piece? Because when you look, to me, the great poems that are out there today, that you know, modern day poetry, people are writing about what's happening in their lives in the world. It's a microcosm, it's a moment, it's a snapshot of your life. And that's what I love about poems being a small container. So what I think makes a great poem is that the author takes you into an ordinary moment in their life, or maybe it's a very painful or poignant moment, but they take you there. You feel like you're living it, but they often give you some greater insight of what that moment meant. And those are the nuggets of gold of insight.
I get it.
And
now.
so
it's really not so much a rewriting. It's really going deeper and bringing out more, expanding on it in, as I'm understanding, right? Really, you're going deep in where you are at, but then bringing the bigger picture out in the poem as well.
Yes. But you can use a therapeutic technique of having someone write a story one way, and then, how could you write a different story about this? I mean, obviously that would be a great technique. I use that a lot as well. So how about you rewrite this from a different perspective? Yeah.
So what fascinated you particularly on the poetry component?
I know, it's interesting. Well, it started when I was younger. My grandmother was a poet. And well, I didn't actually, let's say this. When I was young, my mom got sick with cancer when I was 9 years old. She died at 12. And my 8th grade English teacher had us keep a journal, and my mother had just died. And so I started to really deepen my journal writing and began to write poems. And she was so important in that she really worked with me and helped me feel heard and asked for more. And so between journal writing and song lyrics, music became a lifeline for me. I was always the one, like in high school, college, who would find the perfect song for you to listen to based on what you were going through. So I was doing it in my life already. And my grandmother was a poet, and she didn't start writing until her 60s, and wrote some amazing books, very autobiographical. And I think she was an inspiration for me. And her book was how I stumbled into this field. I started to bring it into a retirement home that I was volunteering in just for fun. I had some ache to, work with older adults. And I just happened to be put in front of this activity group, and they didn't have their activity. And I said, could I bring in my grandmother's book of poetry and read it aloud? And instinctually, I started to have them finish sentences based on her poems about their own lives. And we started to create anthologies, and that's how I stumbled into it. And then she had a collection of something like 1,000 books of poetry. And after she passed, I read through a lot of them and started to find all these life themes. So that's kind of how I stumbled into poetry.
So if I'm like, for example, we'll go like, I wouldn't think poetry, right, for myself, but writing I can associate with, because I journal before. But is that usually when clients come to you that want to start exploring that? Because I can imagine not everybody goes like, oh, I want to write poems.
Right.
Is that something that they explore with you? So if I would call you, it's like exploring really like, hey, what writing would you like to do? Is that how it goes? And then
usually people find me, if they're just find me on the web, they are doing some sort of search for a writing class, a therapeutic writing class, and they have some sense of a love of poetry, a lot of them. But a lot of them will just stumble onto my site and see that I offer a very non-judgmental way to begin to write. And I don't expect you to write poems. Anything that you write can be turned into a poem simply by breaking the lines. So you could bring me a journal entry and we could pull out a poem from that. So it's not so much about them writing poems off the bat as it is giving them a way to write that is really free, but also, offers a lot of self-discovery. And my groups, I think, when people of all ages gather in a group and are taken through this process, you learn so much from other people, and everybody's pulling different lines from the same piece. And then they're all writing something deeply vulnerable and meaningful in a safe environment, and are able to really open up a way of expressing that I don't think we get enough of in our culture today.
100%. And we definitely, seen it, especially with the pandemic, right? With the community, the get together, the in-person being together, but also vital, again, from a brain perspective, vital is we need to connect and we need to share.
Yes.
That's how we actually think better.
Yes.
We actually think very differently when we have conversation, get different perspective. Just hearing somebody, like you said, interpreting something or finding different meaning that I might find in something, and sharing that is exponential for personal growth. And it's when we set us up in that kind of environment, it goes deeper and further. And as you said too, you used it or got into it basically coping with grief and healing. But there's so many benefits also on levels of anxiety and overall well-being, like happiness, like the positivity that comes out of it. It's just that whole writing has so many benefits. Gratitude is in there. It's not the gratitude practice per se, but there's a lot of gratitude in writing as well, in the intentional one, of course. When as you said, like, oftentimes a lot of negative thought comes out, but then as a coach, pulling out the positive in there gives you a whole component of the gratitude practice in there as well, which is a whole another level and really impactful of who we are as humans, and how our brain functions and what our brain needs really, and what we need to be healthy and happy. And there's so many benefits. So are people kind of talking to like or writing about all areas of lives, or is there certain areas that seem to be more, like, is relationship, for example, more something, or grief, trauma, or is it pretty much all areas of life?
All, I mean, like I said, like in a group, if I put a poem in front of a whole group of people, everyone is going to be accessing something in there, whether it's a grief that they're going through, a transition, something going on in a relationship, intimacy, family relationships. I mean, you name it. That's the power of the poem. I mean, I do a lot of workshops at the Peninsula Library in Palos Verdes, and they'll fill a room, and I'll come in and put 2 poems in front of them, and it's amazing where they all go with it. And that's when I think they realize, oh my gosh, just allowing myself to be inspired by another piece of writing, and then having that person ask me to sit for 15 minutes and just write, it blows their mind. It's not so much about people wanting to write poems. They get to access their voice.
Yeah.
And that voice has a lot to say, and people aren't writing as much or reading as much these days. And everything that they are expressing is out there for judgment and likes and comments, and they don't have the space to just feel safe enough to explore what they're feeling vulnerable about. I don't even think people realize exactly what they're feeling most of the time, because we don't stop. And if we stopped and journaled,
we're going. It's just constantly, and so much information that comes at us. And again, not a lot of times not with the intention of internally looking, but actually as far as getting external validation and what have you. And we're losing a lot. We're losing a lot in the way we grow as people, as a person. I 100% agree. And that brings also my clients, we often try to figure out where can they bring in more mindfulness, because we're not stopping, right? We're not stopping. We're not taking the time to stop for a moment and really be present, truly present, including checking, how do I even feel?
Right.
How do I feel? But also, I love that you said with the writing, the writing and putting your feelings into words is just so powerful, because there's a whole level that I've just read another book that it said, again, we have, there's so little that can stay in our consciousness because there's just not the bandwidth, and so much goes in the, I'm gonna not call it stuff, but the non-consciousness area. And these are things that can come out when we're actually writing, and they pop up sometimes in other ways, right? When we're thinking, we didn't really think about, oftentimes in the coaching sessions that I do, clients hear something, and then 2-3 weeks later, they're like, oh, I get it. Whatever we talked about 3 weeks ago, I just got it. I totally get it. Now I'm like doing this and this, because it is not in our actual full consciousness there. And the writing can totally bring that out even more, where we can expand on the consciousness, but also by connecting it with the emotions, we can, which is also what's called the interoceptions. When people actually not being aware of how they feel, don't make decisions nowadays anymore.
Right.
There's actually a study that was out, very cool. Wall Street, people make, it's not the ones like, say, super smart, know all the statistics, making necessarily the right decision. It's the one that actually know how they feel, that can really feel their emotions, may make a decision much smarter, that turns wherever they put their money there, gives them a higher return, because they know how to check in. And we need to really, it's a skill. We need to learn again to check in with ourselves and know, how do we feel about something?
Right. So and which way are you looking possibly for your life to go? I mean, a lot of people come to me in the middle of some transition or a new phase of life. And, if I'm working one-on-one with someone, I'll do my initial intake, which is really getting a sense of their history. One, what is your feelings about writing? Are you a journaler? Are you whatever? But more importantly, what are you going through in your life? And what sorts of things are you wanting to explore? And then I go to my library of curriculum and really poignantly choose poems to put in front of them. And it's so surprising to them the level they can go and the surprise that they get of what comes forward, and what might navigate a choice that they make that is much more from a higher place of the truth, in going from a place of wholeness, of really understanding how they're holding the experiences in their lives and where they want to go next.
Yeah, what do they want? What makes them happy? Where did they see themselves? Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, that's something too that helped me in my journey of my health with the struggles I had. I was just living to the next day. I'm like, how do I get through the next day, right? When you're in chronic pain, it's very difficult to have a vision, a future, something bigger.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I really dug deeper into like, what do I really want to do? It can't be that, you just suffer and try to get through the next day. And that's really what comes out in writing even faster, I bet.
Yeah.
So it's really, really a powerful tool to dig deeper, but also really, I mean, life is short.
Right.
We get to that much faster to live really more fulfilled to the fullest, because oftentimes, people, may realize very late that, wow, there's more to life. And life, we're really this short on the planet.
Yeah.
We're definitely need to take every day to the fullest, I believe.
Yeah. And to ask those hard questions and then take a moment to write about them and see what answers you come up with. Yeah.
So when you do those sessions, is that, because I can just imagine right now, but sometimes things take a little longer. Is that like weekly sessions that you do when it's one-on-one and they get kind of homework to work on and move forward? Is that how?
So in my private sessions, there's two options. One, you can start with the life story course, which a lot of people like to start with more of a structured curriculum. So that's structured. It's 10 sessions. We go through a packet of life themed poetry and prompts, and I'm really pulling it out of you. And then I send you off writing based on what we talked about. And you're doing 3, sometimes 4 writing exercises in between. My private clients get to choose how often they want to meet. Do they want to meet weekly? Do they want to meet bi-weekly? Do they want, the longest I'll let you go, especially in that class, is 1 month, right? But longer than that, you're losing it. And I want you writing. So that would be that one. But the other one option is what I call pure poetry therapy, where someone comes to me and says, I want to start exploring. I want to write in session with you, and I want some writing in between. And that's where I'm just putting one poem in front of you. And I will know kind of what you're going through in your life already. And we'll explore that. And I will get you writing in the session, at least 15, 20 minutes. And then we discuss and what insights are coming forward. And then based on our discussion, I usually can find 2 or 3 writing prompts based on your reaction to a poem in a session. And I send you off writing those on your own. And then we come back and we do it again. And we look at what you've written for insight. And then I put something else in front of you. I have people I've been working with for 14 years. So sometimes people will do the life story course and then want to work privately, and then they'll take a break for a little while. Then they'll come back. Some will want to join my groups for a little while to see what the group is like, and then they'll go back to private. I've had one woman, we wrote an entire collection. She wrote a book of poetry on her cancer journey. And now we're back to just doing pure poetry therapy. And so it's all kinds, some come, I had someone come who had just lost their husband and wanted to explore grief. And, we worked together for like 6 months or so. And suddenly I just felt a shift and she was done.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. And I love to, which we haven't talked about, but I do want to absolutely cover with you as well. You've actually designed a curriculum for third
For
graders,
children.
for children. And I think it's so important. I know it gave you a lot, but to not have like my experience, right? Have to memorize some poem that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And having this really more negative experience, particularly in school. And so share a little bit more about that, because I'm curious.
So that program was born in my son's third grade classroom. And his teacher, I had just published my second book of poetry, and she knew about it, the teacher, and she came to me and said, how would you teach poetry to third graders if you could do it any way that you wanted, as a poetry therapist and as an author poet yourself? And so, long story short, I had been studying a very craft-based technique called method writing, which is born out of a man named Jack Grapes, who lives in Los Angeles. And it's very technique-based writing techniques, and poets and novelists and screenwriters and nonfiction writers all use these. I'm still studying that. I still am constantly in a group where I just am writing with these techniques. So it's a very creative way. And I adapted that program and the techniques for children. And it started in my son's third grade class. And it's 5 voices of poetry that incorporates all of figurative language. And it was so popular that the district then put me in a lot of the third grade classrooms here in Manhattan Beach. But I only had 4 sessions to teach them these voices. And then the kids wanted more, parents wanted more. So it grew into an ongoing kids writing group that I did out of my house. And what I found is that it was a lot of children who struggled with writing, who did not do well with the normal, let's write a metaphor. And suddenly they were able to access through these voices. And then once they learned the voices, I combined the voices in writing one poem. And suddenly the language was pouring out of them. But the social emotional learning piece of this curriculum is what I'm so excited about, because I have them do it by writing about their lives. And they need that. They need that more than ever. So this curriculum is designed for 3rd through 8th grade, because they are learning the foundations. They're learning 5 voices. They're also learning what's called the image moment, which is an amazing way to write a moment or a scene in writing, but doing it by accessing our own experiences and the level of empathy that they can have when sharing amongst each other. So I taught that for about 6 years to thousands of 3rd graders. And now we're excited that we just launched an e-course training. So it's online. My husband is a filmmaker, and he videoed me teaching all the lessons. And so it's an online self-paced training for educators, but that could mean parents, homeschoolers, people that are teaching summer writing workshops. It's just such an accessible way to teach writing skills. So it's now available online, and people can purchase the videos and the downloadable PDFs and all the writing prompts I used in the kids writing groups. So we've got some people moving through the classroom now, and it's early. I'm still kind of getting my legs on how to sell curriculum in the education market. That's totally new to me. So it's new, but it's very exciting.
Super exciting. And all the information is below the video, just in case somebody reach out.
The poetrytoolbox.com is the website where you can access the Poetry Toolbox curriculum. It's called the Poetry Toolbox for Classrooms. And I also offer in-person or Zoom professional development for teachers and so forth. But the curriculum really has it all. So, yeah.
That is so exciting, and I think also so important, especially since we know that the school system in itself does need some little tweaking.
Yeah.
Because we're not covering everybody in a way to really ignite and inspire to do certain things, and writing definitely can very easily go warp, right?
Yeah.
Where there's a bad experience in elementary school, and because it was hard for the kid at that time or period, and then they just never get back into it, maybe as an adult again, but it's and I think really, really vital in the elementary school level to have some positive experience with that, because it can change lives from the
Yes.
start, from the start.
Yes.
And
And
having,
I was just blown away by, these third graders accessing moments inside themselves and language and imagery, and they hadn't quite formed the critic yet. And so they were really open to where the voices could take them, and ways that they could explore it. And the teachers were blown away. It was piloted at Wildwood Elementary here in Los Angeles. I trained a teacher there in 2021, 22. And she did the whole program based on my training for her third graders. And they had a whole family presentation, and they published little books of their writing. And it made me cry when she told me how successful it was. So I really want to get it into the hands of anyone. It would be a great curriculum to do as a parent with your child, like writing with them. So yeah.
so it's really, though, what we said too is, right, the life being so fast, so much information coming in, we're not really knowing anymore how we feel. But when we actually have our kids and the younger really explore this, they learning to recognize their feelings, and they're
Yes.
learning already the skill of identifying how they feel,
Yes.
and putting that into words.
Yes.
Because there's lots of other programs, in elementary schools where it is about, the ruler, for example, is one,
Right.
here in El Segundo, where it's, accessing words to express your emotions. But this goes so much deeper, because
It does.
you're really exploring in that direction, and really, because oftentimes it's, right, how do we answer, like, yeah, I feel sad, or like, yeah, no, but like, there's so much more when it comes to feelings and emotions, and it does take more work and more skill to really dig deeper. So I think that is so fascinating, and I'm so excited that you're doing that, because it will change so many lives
Yeah.
moving forward. So lucky the ones that already got it.
Yeah. And
Got
it's interesting that you talk about the ruler program. The curriculum, actually, the whole first part of the curriculum is I use the ruler program to explain how it aligns with that exact program.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
for anybody not knowing, the ruler program is a science-based curriculum that has been implemented in a lot of schools, and other. I don't think if it's just schools, I have to say, but it's really about identifying how you're feeling that day, to know, and also here in schools, at least, how other people feel, to be more aware
Yes.
and have more empathy. And I mean, all of these things that are really coming short nowadays, we're when we talk in inclusion, when we talking, about being more empathetic in our divisive situation that we're in,
Yeah.
at least in this country. So much more coming into for the greater good, really.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is so good, so
Oh,
good.
thank you.
So so that's one option, to start with kids, right? But what would you say for somebody if they wanted to get started? If if I'm going, like, I want to get started today with some writing, what would be the 3 steps, or how would I start? What would you suggest?
Well, the first step would be to reach out to me, and we would do a free intro Zoom session where we would just really talk and get to know each other about, what your experience in writing is, what your intentions are, and how and what you are wanting to write about, what's going on in your life, and an opportunity for me to explain the process, and for you to ask questions. So at that point, I would want them to think about, are you wanting to work privately one-on-one? are you wanting to maybe start with the life story course and get a sense of your overall life journey? Or do you have a specific, you just want to start and let me put things in front of you and let us get writing together? Or do you want to join one of my ongoing groups that are the monthly writing groups, where we do 2-hour Zooms, and I always have a packet of life themed poetry and prompts, and we explore, and then we discuss, and then we have 20 minutes of writing, then we share without any judgment, and then I send you off with homework, and we come back, and some people have been in those groups for, gosh, 14, 15 years.
So really, which that's as I love, because there's people that like to be, as I call the artist, a little bit more creative, and then there's the other ones, me, more like an engineering kind of brain. I like it structured and you know, kind of
Yeah.
little bit more guided when it comes to those areas, at least with the writing. Otherwise I'm pretty creative, but so there's really you would identify in the Zoom session, you know what, this is what's right for you, because at the end of the day, as I always say too, it's we need to find what's right for you, because
exactly, like my goal is
we can have all the knowledge. If we're not doing it, and we're not doing it with joy, it really doesn't have all the benefits. So it's really about integrating it into your life, in the client's life, of how it works for you, and what kind of style works for you, and when and how much it works for you. Because at the end of the day, if we're not doing it, we can't get the benefits. Just
exactly. Yeah, and I'm really, my goal is to really hear you out on your intentions and what workshop is the best for you. And then the third option, I guess, would be, you know, I have writers of all different abilities, and that come to me and want just editing advice. But you know, I go about editing in a deeper way. But you know, I will help writers get their stuff ready for publication. Poets, I'm not doing your novel, but you know, poetry is my field. But yeah, I work with people of all levels in that way. Sometimes people will come to me like, I think I have a manuscript of poems, but I'm not sure, and you know, that's a different hat. But all the poetry therapy does start to come through in that too, because I want you to know what it is that you're writing. What are you really trying to say, and how can we show that and really make these poetry moments come alive?
As you said, life speaks.
Yes, life speaks. Yeah.
Life speaks, and you're pulling out all the voices there.
Yeah, and you know, for a while, a lot of my earlier work, when my son was younger, my first book, Autism Disrupted: A Mother's Journey of Hope, I worked a lot more with special needs parents on helping them write out that journey. And I would use my book as an example of that, because that was my healing journey, was putting into writing my journey as a mother, going through a child that was very confusing as to what exactly we were dealing with, the gray area of autism, but more sensory processing disorder. And so many families are going through that. So that is a very special course that is designed to really help parents take a moment to express it, and done in a way of kind of the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell, and that, you know, we need to write out the experience from the initial dream of what you thought parenting was going to be versus what happened when things shifted, but also what about the support? What about your marriage? What about the other family members? How did you get your team of resources together? But ultimately that arc to the blessing of how your life was meant to change in that way. And I'm living proof of that.
So well said. And yes, I observed and seen you guys' journey, and it's just amazing, and all the good you've done along the way, helping so many, and the awareness, so many people in those similar situations, but the awareness you you and Eric brought really to a whole field.
Yeah.
It was all lumped together, but that's a whole nother episode.
Yes. Yes.
Because I think that is so powerful what you've both have put together in that. But that is still something where the writing comes in, and in you figured out with including your writing and the poetry to redefine really your parenting and changing and shifting and transition in your life, and being able to, because you also went through your own journey, being able to really help and resonate with other parents that going through, because it is a huge shift. It's like a curveball nobody talks about. And having to figure that out is difficult on your own. And that's where it's really a coach comes in and is so powerful in helping you seeing really the blind spots. And like you said, resources is a key component. I know you guys work a lot on resources and finding that. And that's where really it becomes much easier when somebody has already gone through it, has the resources, and can share them and dig deeper with that.
Yeah.
So good. Oh, did I miss any other thing that you're offering? What's in the future?
Oh, the future is me continuing to write on my own, which, I'm always writing. I've taken a little bit of a pause of submitting, for publication and writing. But I'm in some anthologies that currently, and but yeah, it's just continuing this work that I love. I love it.
What
so I feel.
Yeah, what is that? That would be my final question today is what is that love, that passion you have? What does it give you? Particularly sharing with clients or people that come your way. What is
Yeah. There is, I mean, when I walk away after I've taught a group or I've done a session, I have connected so deeply on a human to human level, and listened, and just invited and given permission to express it and hold it with them. And I mean, you go to the grocery store and you are beaming inside because you've helped someone feel less alone, and you've just spent a really quality amount of time with someone heart to heart. And to me, that's not work.
Yep.
It's so meaningful.
Yep. Human connection is something what we need. We do need to connect. It's part of how we are humans and feeling alive and fulfilled. So the deeper connection is just, it's so powerful. I agree, because I feel the same with the work I do. It's a whole nother level when it really goes deep, and there is that genuine feeling of connection. Gives us energy, really gives us energy, and I think also hope and a lot for the future. So, well, thank you, Jennie, for being here. I love it. That was a great insights, great information, and resources will be below. So check it out. Reach out to Jennie. Amazing work you're doing. You're impacting the world, which I love, one person at a time.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. Making shifts and changes, because the truth is common knowledge isn't common practice. So we do need to implement it. We need to do it. You help people really dig deeper in their lives so that they can be feeling their best self and really spreading more positivity in the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Heike.
This was a great Empower Hour. I hope you feel all inspired and get writing out there, because I will definitely have a little perspective right now on my next journaling. So
good.
Thank you, Jennie.
Yeah.